Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to LIBOR's Wednesday webinar. September is National Realtor Safety Month, and we start our dedication to your safety with a very special guest, David Lagaz. Let me introduce David formally and then welcome him as our friend and colleague. After a successful career as one of New York's finest, Dave retired as a sergeant in 2002 after responding to the 9/11 World Trade Center tragedy and losing his partner. Dave combines his 2 decades of law enforcement experience and over 25 years of real estate practice to teach real estate professionals internationally how to reduce their risk of being targeted by a predator. In 2019, as a graduate of the NAR Leadership Academy, Dave petitioned NAR's leadership team to create a Realtor Safety Advisory Committee and was appointed to the first chairperson, or as the first chairperson for 2020. He is also the education chairperson and a board of director with the Beverly Carter Foundation, whose mission is dedicated to improving agent safety. Dave also co-authored an agent safety book named Safe Selling, a practical guide for preventing crime without sacrificing the sale. He was the 2021 New York State Association of Realtors, or NYSAR president, the 2017 Long Island Board of Realtors president, and their Realtor of the Year in 2014. Dave has been an NAR director since 2013 and a NYSAR director since 2012. He is our friend, he is our past president, and we're privileged to have him with us. So welcome, Dave, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Marianne. And for those, I apologize, you had to listen through a long resume and intro. I didn't know what to write, so I asked my mother to help me. And the funny thing is, I'm not even her favorite child, so I can imagine what my second and third brother's bios would be. So I thank you for your patience on that. I'm going to share my screen now. And today we're talking about realtor safety, obviously, and it's titled Prospect or Predator, because we really don't know who's inquiring if they're a prospect or predator. But I'm going to give you tips today on how to reduce the risk of being targeted without losing the sale. And keeping realtors safe is a true passion of mine. My police background and being a realtor since over 25 years now really melds the two together, and I want to keep everybody safe. And years ago, the real estate industry made a false assumption that crimes against agents were random, opportunistic street crimes. And as a result, we were taught about awareness and not about predatory behavior. And we know from police reports that most of these crimes that committed upon us meet all the classic predatory behavior patterns. So today you're going to learn that the goal of a predator is power and control, and they're attracted to agents who show signs of weakness, subservience, and vulnerability. And you're going to be hearing those 3 things throughout the presentation today: weakness, subservience, and vulnerability. And I'm going to give you tips on how to remove your weakness, subservience, and vulnerability out of our daily practicing of real estate. So the first video I'm going to show you, and this is very intense video. A lot of these videos may trigger an unwanted response if you've been a victim of a crime, whether on the job or off the job. So feel free to just lower the volume for a little bit until the video's over. But before we begin, I can't talk about safety without first thanking our military who protect us at home and abroad. And if you are an active, retired, or reservist, or a family member of one of those, thank you and thank them for their service. Again, I wouldn't be able to be here also, and we wouldn't be safe in our own town without our essential services, our paramedics, our fire department, and police department. So again, thank you for your service if you're amongst the audience here or have a family member. So here's the first slide, and you're going to see a lot of actual newscasts, but this first one is one that I created with NAR, where I moderated a conversation with 2 realtor victims where they tell their story and we outline what the predator was looking for and why they were attacked.
Member safety is a matter of your life or your death.
I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be in a situation to where I would have a 9mm held to my head.
It was a day like any other when James Olson, an agent with more than 35 years' experience, set out to meet a blind lead at a vacant property. Something he had done countless times before.
I was actually with my wife on the way to an appointment. I had never met this person, and she was sitting on the front porch waiting for me, and I just told my wife to wait in the car. We walked through the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. Now, I've been in this property a number of times, and it just seemed odd to me that all the doors were closed. So I went to grab the bedroom door, and out came a masked gunman holding a 9mm to my head. He was all dressed in black like a ninja. He had a hoodie on, sunglasses, face mask, black gloves, black everything. Within a couple seconds, another guy dressed the same held a 9mm up against the side of my head. I had my hands up in the air, and he said, "Get down to the floor." So I took his gun, and he hit me in the back of the head. I went falling to my knees. Blood was flowing in my eyes. They're asking me where the money is, and I told them I didn't have any, so they rifled my pockets and pulled my pants down and socks and shoes off, and they wound up making away with my wedding ring, my wallet, and my iPhone. They came back to me and said, "Give us 10 minutes or we're coming back here and killing you." These guys are out there, and if they attack me, more than likely they're going to be going after somebody else. This was a predatory assault. They didn't just randomly pick me, they stalked me.
Jim Olson was surveilled and targeted based on his job as collecting rents as a property manager. They knew what day to lure him into the property that was vacant so he could be robbed at gunpoint. Studies have shown that agent male victims were attacked 30% of the time. And we know with Jim Olson, and he's a big burly man, infantry soldier, never was in fear that something could happen, and he was a victim of a violent robbery. And now, listen to his story, he changes the way he does business. He arrives at a home much earlier than the appointment time and does a circumference of the house to see if there's anything out of place or if there's any broken windows or forced entry.
Kitty Wallace, a managing broker with almost 20 years' experience, has faced off with numerous predators.
One of my most recent experiences was from a gentleman who wanted to see a home. I have a practice that I have them meet me at the office for the first time. This particular gentleman didn't want to meet me at the office, so that did put a red flag up for me.
Working in a rural area with limited cell phone reception, Kitty remained steadfast in her safety protocols, but the caller had a plan of his own.
He was very insistent, and it was, "Can you meet me there in an hour?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, I can schedule an appointment with you. We can sit down and see what your needs are." No, I want to see this house." And he said, "Okay, then meet me in 2 hours." He just kind of kept moving the time frame for me. And when that escalated and he wouldn't meet me, he ended up calling my office. He was swearing at me saying that, "That's my job. I need to meet him here. What is my seller going to do when he finds out I won't show him this property, etc." And I just didn't let myself get bullied. I really stood my ground and didn't meet with him at all. I've always kind of just accepted it's part of the job, and that's really not okay. So I reported it to my local association, and they sent an email blast to all the agents. 2 other agents reached out to me, and they had also been approached by this gentleman. Maybe I prevented something bad happening not only to myself, but maybe somebody else as well. I do believe that the intent of some clients is not to buy a house. The intent is to see what they could do if they got me a loan.
Jim and Kitty's harrowing stories display the 2 types of predatory motives: profit and power and control.
There is a misconception that crimes against agents are random opportunistic street crime, and in fact, they're of predatory nature. And by understanding predator behavior and learning that you can remove weakness, subservience, and vulnerability out of your daily practice, you'll be able to keep yourself safe.
I think realtor safety is one of the most important things that any realtor can learn about.
The goal of the Realtor Safety Program is to reduce the number of incidents in our industry so this way you can come home to your family every night. You deserve it and they deserve it.
I think having these protocols in place is definitely the key to saving my life. 99.9% of the time, our job is amazing. It's that 0.01% that's not worth my life.
So that video could be found at nar.realtor/safety, and then go to safety videos. It's an excellent video to show during your office meetings, especially during this month where we're supposed to recognize realtor safety. So we have a dangerous profession. In fact, the US Department of Labor classifies our occupation as high risk. So much so that in certain states, if you list that you're a licensed agent, salesperson, broker, your life insurance premium is going to go up based on high risk occupation. Also, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they track homicides, and they said that our industry have been averaging 20 homicides per year since 2011. And did you know that there are more real estate professionals killed nationwide each year than NYPD officers? More real estate professionals killed each year than NYPD officers. And as an NYPD officer, I was trained to protect life and property. I had the tools on my belt that would keep me safe. I had a firearm, I had a baton, I had pepper spray, a taser, I had a radio to call for help. As realtors, we don't have those physical tools readily available, but I will give you some tools today that's going to keep you safe. So since the kidnapping of and murder of Beverly Carter in 2014, NAR created an annual member safety survey to try to learn more about the dangers we face every day and what we're doing about it. You'll hear a little about Beverly Carter's story in the next couple of minutes, but let me go over some of the things they found in the report. They said that 23% of the agents surveyed work in fear. So based on our NAR membership of 1.5 million, that's about 345 agents last year alone worked in fear while on the job. And if we equate that to LIBOR's membership, about 30,000 realtors, that's about 6,900 of our fellow LIBOR realtors that work in fear every day. The survey asks, well, what situations made them feel unsafe? And the biggest one was after receiving a threatening or inappropriate text message, phone message, voicemail, social media, instant message. It's when the predator is testing you to see if you're weak, subservient, or vulnerable. So they're going to send you these texts that are vulgar, that may say, let's go for a drink after the appointment. You're beautiful, I want to marry you. Those are predators testing the water. So if you ever get those types of text messages, and I know buyer agents on my team have all the time, bark back at them. Say, if you don't stop this, I'm going to report you to the police. And hopefully at that point, you showed them that you may no longer be the target they're looking for. And they're going to victim shop. They're going to go to other agents who show signs of weakness, subservience, or vulnerability. They said areas that made them feel unsafe. Suburban areas, 45%, it was the largest. Rural countries, rural area, 13%. Even though their cell phone coverage is very lacking, then they're not feeling unsafe up there, but we feel more unsafe in our suburban area. They said, well, how many realtors were victims of a crime? And they said it was about 2% total. So that's about 30,000 NAR realtors are victims of a crime, or 600 realtors here on LIBOR who maybe were sexually abused, raped, murdered, assaulted, or robbed. We have these incidents happen all across the country, and you'll see some of these newscasts. They said, well, when or where did the crime occur? And again, it happened after the agent received this inappropriate communication from a predator. 30% of the time is when that happened. They said, well, how many agents meet their new client at a secluded property? And 34% of our agents do that. The good thing is previous surveys showed that was about 50%. So at least we're getting better that we're not meeting a new client alone at a secluded location. So here are some of those videos I told you about. These are newscasts over the last couple of years of actual agent victims. And you'll see on the top, it'll say predator attack, and it'll be at different parts of our business that we do. So the first few are when we have a showing.
Police say he attacked a pregnant real estate agent October 8th as she was showing a house near Glennon Mountain.
Don't know what his motive was, but we do know he attempted to contact other female real estate agents in the area and get them to show him homes that were up for sale also.
The victim later miscarried. Davansaya has a record stretching back to 1999.
So you see here, this was a recent one, and the predator did have a record. I'm going to show you some tools that you could use to, you could check if someone has a record as well.
According to detectives, Lewis was caught on surveillance video kidnapping 37-year-old Stefano Barbosa at gunpoint outside a Fort Lauderdale home. Lewis then allegedly forced the victim to make two $500 withdrawals before shooting him.
So again, 30% of the agent victims were men, and they usually end in a more deadly outcome or more drastic injuries. This is a kidnapping, and the initial phase of a kidnapping provides the best opportunity to escape. You want to make as much commotion as possible to draw attention to your situation. If escape doesn't seem possible, try to go along with the kidnapper, befriend him, and then try to escape when his guard's down. But if you are forced to go into the car, try to create an accident, because the injuries occurred at the accident will be less severe than the predator, this kidnapper, taking you to a remote location. And the accident will definitely call attention to your situation.
Douglas County Sheriff's deputies found Sodoro lifeless Tuesday morning. An autopsy determined he was shot to death. We're told he was showing Lorello the property. Though the suspect has no criminal history, he's known in the world of realty for the wrong reasons. Jason Burnstill, a real estate agent, told 6 News Lorello has, quote, a long history of questionable interactions with other agents and describes him as creepy.
So if this association or MLS had a safety alert system in place, the agent may have decided to take a buddy with them or not go on the appointment at all. Luckily, with our CEO, Tessa Holtz, we created a safety alert system where you would call into LIBOR. LIBOR will vet the scenario, pass it through the legal department, and then put out a blast to everybody. Agents do have to sign up for this text messaging alert system, but it does work, and it will keep you safe, and it's been activated several times over the last couple of years.
Both charged with felony abduction and misdemeanor assault after allegedly attempting to abduct a 54-year-old realtor as she waited to show a home in North Ridgeville. The woman was scheduled to show a home on Homecrest Drive when Helton and Evans allegedly asked her for a business card and then grabbed her and attempted to pull her into an SUV.
So ask yourself, if this agent was alone, would she have been targeted? And most likely not. And we always tell our kids, don't approach strange people in strange vehicles. But as a realtor, we're looking for that next lead. And that's why she innocently approached the van before they attempted to abduct her. But if she was with a buddy, these predators wouldn't have chosen her.
She was showing this home to a potential client when he told her there was a leak in the bathroom. As she walked in, he came in behind her, slammed the door shut, and shoved her against the wall, yelling sexually explicit profanities. The victim says that she remained calm, fought back, and made up a story her attacker fell for.
So this is one of the most common ways to set the stage to attack, and I'll show you some others, but this was that there's a leak in the bathroom. Though by fighting back, she was able to escape, and research shown that women who physically resisted and defended themselves reduced the odds of a completed rape or physical injury. When you plead with a sexual predator, you're only feeding into their perception that you're weak and vulnerable, and that will continue the attack. Again, when you're fighting back, whether you're trained or not, and in this scenario, the agent was not trained, but the fact that she did fight back showed that she wasn't weak or vulnerable.
To some troubling behavior in Hillsborough County. Deputies tell us a man is going around looking for female real estate agents who are alone and then inappropriately touching them.
And this happens more frequently than we realized. Because of victim shaming, a lot of victims don't come forward. But here's a disturbing fact that 1 in 3 women will be attacked with the intent of sexual assault, and 1 in every 6 women have been victims of a rape, completed rape, or an attempted rape in their lifetime. And those are not just industry standards. That's agenda standard statistic for the rest of for the whole country. But we just make it easier sometimes when we host open houses by ourselves.
On Wednesday afternoon, a local real estate agent was attacked after showing a model home. Las Vegas police did not disclose the location to help protect the victim's identity. Police arrested the suspect, Richie Cervantes. He faces several charges, including attempted sexual assault. A police report recounts what happened. A real estate agent noticed Cervantes was acting suspicious. He unlocked several windows and eventually left. The agent called 911 to report his suspicious behavior. She then locked the front door and windows and called a coworker. While she was on the phone with her coworker, Cervantes returned. He broke a window. The real estate agent hid in a closet. The police report says Cervantes dragged her out of the closet and she fought to try and free herself. He made threatening comments before performing a lewd act.
Again, not everybody who comes into our showings or open houses are real prospects. They may be a predator. In this case, he went to the window, tried to unlock it for a later arrival to come back and attack her. There's also keys sometimes in a double locked door internally. So if you see any keys in the houses you're showing or you're preparing for an open house, please remove the keys, because that's an easy way for a predator to come in and take the key and come back for a late entry.
Bulletin putting female realtors on edge. It warns of a man who's lured at least 14 women to the same downtown Detroit commercial property under the guise of listing it. Then he makes unwanted advances. We do know he is a registered sex offender, making the situation even more concerning. He requests the women meet him alone and gets upset if they bring a male colleague. The women reported the professional interaction takes a turn to comments on the agent's looks or clothing. In one of the cases, he brought the agent flowers and wanted to, quote, take care of her.
Again, another predator. Even in commercial showings, there's some dangers. A lot of the commercial real estate agents and realtors don't think that there's anything going to happen to them, but a lot of the commercial showings are after business hours where you cannot be seen or heard, or vacant buildings. Now, this attack happened at a listing appointment.
House alone with the victim. Police say as the two were going room to room, Haddad asked her, quote, what her fetishes were. The victim was, quote, caught off guard and did not respond because she wanted to remain professional. The two continued throughout the home, and according to police, the victim found numerous sex toys, a rope, and handcuffs in one of the rooms. Police say after that discovery is when Haddad sexually assaulted the victim.
Yeah, we never think of stranger danger for listing appointments. We're always thinking about it at the buyers, because we go on a listing appointment, we do the research, we look at the deed records, we look at the tax records, we assume that the owner is going to be there, but do we actually check ID of the owner to see if that's the person we're meeting? But again, if she would have brought a buddy with her, I doubt the attack would have happened.
Attack was completely unexpected.
She says 34-year-old Holdren showed up like any regular customer Saturday and even took a complete tour of the home.
It makes absolutely no sense, but he came in and he signed in. He gave his name, he told her where he worked, and he told her about his children.
Grant says Holdren left when another client arrived, but he returned later, telling Farrington he had left his phone in the basement.
What changed from the minute he left until he came back, no one will ever know.
That's when Farrington says he attacked her with a crescent wrench, saying he hit her over the head with that wrench up to 12 times.
So Lenore, she was a black belt in karate. The self-defense that she was probably guarding herself during those attacks probably saved her life. But a predator will give their real name and contact information. They're not afraid of getting caught. And he originally left the open house because other buyers arrived and returned at the end of the open house knowing that no one else would be coming. He came in without a weapon. He knew there'd be tools in the basement or that kitchen block of knives or that knife magnetic strip above the hood range where they could get a weapon. But ask yourself again, this attack wouldn't have happened if she was with the buddy. Now this one is, we tried, this one's dramatic. This victim, we tried to get to come to the NER taping when I interviewed the two realtors. She was going to be my third realtor victim. But since this attack, she's unable to fly. She's very nervous. She's medicated. She is now seeking therapy, and she changes the way she does her business. But listen to her story was pretty sad. But to see the video here, so I do warn you.
Remember you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, another realtor says she also had an encounter with this same man in February, also at an open house, also in Encino.
He's looking up at the camera. He knows there's a camera there. He's not afraid of getting caught. You see, he has a bottle of water in his hand. While they were inside, the agent and the predator was making the agent feel uncomfortable, so she decided to go on the stoop where there'd be more people to see her and maybe an attack wouldn't occur. He was trying to draw her back in by getting a bottle of water, so she said, just go get the bottle of water yourself. So that's when he came out here and pushed her and sexually assaulted her. He had been seen at other open houses previous weeks, and he was victim shopping. He was looking for agents who showed signs of weakness, subservience, and vulnerability. Again, he wasn't afraid to get caught, and he's looking up at the cameras.
Near this model home in Hanover, Maryland, sales representative Stephen Wilson was shot to death Wednesday evening at about 5 p.m. His cell phone and laptop were stolen.
Again, another male victim, another deadly outcome. Now, this next video is a surveillance video of the model home of that murder where Stephen Wilson was murdered at that model home. This predator did not know the agent, had no relationship with him before. That side door was locked. He went around the front. He was given entry and then immediately murdered Stephen Wilson.
We got into the master bedroom and he pulled a knife out. And I could not believe it was happening.
He showed the knife and a can of bear spray.
He asked me to take off my ring and to get in the closet.
Donna says she felt her life was in danger.
I have a license to conceal carry and I had a firearm, and I drew my weapon. As I drew my firearm and he saw that I had that, he doused me with bear spray. So at that point I could not see, barely see, and my skin was burning, my eyes were on fire. and so I fired.
We know in New York, especially New York City, it's very difficult to obtain a concealed carry permit, but across the country, it's much easier. And I often teach across the country, and 75% of the room do carry firearms when they're on showings. NAR did a survey and asked the agents, what do you carry? And the top weapon was pepper spray at 19%, firearm at 15%, but 51% of the membership surveyed carry some sort of self-defense weapon. Pepper spray was more common amongst the females, and the males was more common to carry a firearm. So NAR's position on the legal use of self-defense weapons, basically, other than know your state laws and know that your brokerages, building owners, and sellers could prevent you from entering with a weapon, just know those laws. They're not for or against it. If I could speak as a NYPD officer, if you are licensed to conceal carry, make sure you regularly go to the range to qualify. We had to twice a year at the gun range for accuracy and also for gun retention and safety. So a lot of times an agent may feel overly confident if they're carrying some sort of weapon, and many have stated that they couldn't get to it because it was in their purse and the purse was on the table, or it wasn't on their side when they were attacked. But this is not a new problem. There was an episode of Dragnet in 1967 called The Missing Realtor. And we know that Dragnet showcased crimes that were true and changed the names to protect the innocent. Even in 1967, there were attacks upon realtors. And for the millennials in the audience here today, Dragnet was a crime drama show that actually portrayed real crimes.
It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide. The boss is Captain Brown. My partner's Bill Gannon. My name's Friday. Mrs. Lily Burnham, a real estate broker, had been reported missing. The preliminary investigation indicated a strong possibility of foul play.
So they did their investigation. They found her car. Inside the car, there was a journal of all her scheduled appointments. They went house by house and then eventually found her murdered and robbed in one of the homes she was showing. This perpetrator was convicted of first-degree murder. But even in 1967, there was a concern for our safety. So let me talk to you briefly about the Beverly Carter story. Back in September 30th, 2014, Beverly Carter, she was a realtor from Little Rock, Arkansas. She was kidnapped, murdered, and found dead in a shallow grave. Her family was frantically searching for her for 4 days until they found her body. But I had the pleasure of meeting Carl Carter Jr. and Beverly's broker about 1 year after the mom's murder. They were doing a news story in Manhattan, and NAR had me come in to be the safety expert on that show. And since then, I developed a great friendship with Carl Carter Jr. And as you heard in my bio, I'm very involved in the Beverly Carter Foundation. So much so that even my speaking fee, when I go around the country speaking as I do here today, that donation is made directly to Beverly Carter. I'm not getting paid to keep realtors safe. So here's a quick story from Carl about his mom.
Beverly Carter was my sweet mom. She was an executive broker and a top producing real estate professional from the North Little Rock, Arkansas area. While doing the work that my mom loved so much, she was kidnapped and murdered in the fall of 2014. A couple of weeks before that showing that took my mom from me, my mom began hearing from a couple. Their story was that they were out-of-state buyers. They were relocating due to work, cash buyers, and my mom was hearing from them from phone calls, text, and emails. Their phone number matched that of an out-of-state buyer. their email address matched the fictitious names that they had given her. But my mom had no idea that these people were not who they said they were. She had no idea of their intentions to kidnap her, to hold her for ransom, and to take her perceived wealth. The husband of this couple that took my mom said when he was questioned, "Why Beverly?" He said, "Because she was a rich broker that worked alone." Just being in the profession, marketing herself as the professional that she was, made her a target. As my mom worked with this couple and learned more about how she could best serve them, she reached out to other agents within her agency to get them to be on the lookout for properties that might be of interest to this couple. My mom talked about this couple and their needs to my dad. And so many people were aware that Mom was working with these clients. However, something happened when the couple reached out and they requested to see a specific property. A property that my mom knew was vacant and was in a bit of disarray. A property that my mom knew probably wouldn't be what they were looking for. We know that it raised a red flag with my mom because my mom did a great thing. And that's that she made up a company policy in the moment, and she said to them, "I'm so sorry, but company policy prohibits me from working alone in a rural area." What my mom didn't anticipate was that the husband handed the phone to his wife, and the wife said, "Hey girl, I'm going to be joining the two of you at this property. Will your company be okay for the three of us to be there during this showing?" My mom, being so sweet and so professional, did as many of us would. She agreed to show them this property. A property that I'll add was known to be in a safe area. This was a common place for my mom. It's a lakefront property. Just a few doors down from this home is where the pastor of my mother's church lived. A community known for its safe community feel, where people are known to not even lock their doors. So my mom agreed to meet this couple and show them this property. It's 6 p.m. Keep in mind, my mom had never met them in a public place prior to this. My mom had no idea that on the other end of this transaction, the husband was a 7-time felon. And so my mom got to that property early that day, after calling my dad and saying that she was going to show that specific property, and Dad knew exactly where she'd be. 6 p.m. came, and a black car pulls up in the driveway, and it's the husband. And the husband starts in with all these excuses about how he's sorry that the wife will not be able to join them, that she got caught up at work. And sure enough, just kind of in tandem with those excuses, my mom's phone starts receiving text messages from the wife with the apologies. They asked my mom to proceed with showing the property that day, and asked my mom that while she toured the home with the husband, if she would just use her cell phone to take property photos to send to the wife. So it could be as though she was on the showing, at least digitally. And so my mom agreed to show the property. And really one of the toughest things I've ever seen is at the conclusion of the trial, we received my mother's cell phone back, and the last 10 photos on the camera roll were of the interior of this home. And my mom was showing property that day as she was texting them to the wife and answering questions about the property. But my mom had no idea that on the second floor, one of the bedrooms, as she turned from taking a photograph, that she would be met with a roll of tape just like this one and a taser in her side. The bad guy has been very proud to admit that the last words that my mother heard in her safety were, "You're about to have a very bad day." That bad guy tased my mom. He taped her hands behind her back. He taped her ankles together. He ran this tape entirely around her head over her eyes and entirely around her head over her mouth. He went outside and got in his car and backed his car up to the house and opened the trunk and placed my mom in the trunk of that car. He took my mom to a remote area and made her do the first of what would be a series of ransom recordings. These were intended to get my dad to pay a hefty ransom so that these bad guys would never have to work again. After having my mom record that ransom recording, he took my mom to their home, to the bad guy's home, and locked her in their master bathroom. It was at that point that this bad guy thought about this ransom plan and how they would get these funds from my father. And their original plan was that they would use this rich broker's purse and have this husband push all of this money to the cards within the purse. But in that moment, they found a major flaw in their plan. As a safety precaution, my mom never showed property with her purse on her shoulder. She had left it locked in her car. So in his haste to kidnap my sweet mom and to put her in the trunk of his car, he forgot the purse. That night, he left my mom at his home being guarded by the wife of this couple. And he came back to get the purse, and he found that my entire family was there. Law enforcement was there. And as with so many criminals, they think that they have the best and the brightest plan and they won't get caught. And then they see blue lights and they make crazy decisions. And in the case of my sweet mom, they decided to end my mother's life when they realized that their plan wouldn't work. I carry with me my mother's name badge. This is the badge that she was wearing that day whenever she was showing property. It's a really harsh reality and reminder that these people perceived her not as the precious person that she was, but as a vehicle for money. And whenever they couldn't get what they wanted, they took this precious person, they broke it, and they discarded it. My mother's body was found buried in a shallow grave. After days and days of searching, we're fortunate that in my mother's case, there was at least some justice, and that the people that took her are in prison now. But our family has obviously a huge hole that can't be filled from my precious mom. And so in the aftermath of losing her, we've recognized what can happen within this industry and the things that we need to do to keep a similar tragedy from ever happening again. And so in response to losing my precious mom, we founded a nonprofit in her name. It's called the Beverly Carter Foundation. And it exists solely for safety awareness, training, victim advocacy, all for this industry, the industry that my mom loved so much, that she gave so much to, but also now an industry that can learn from my sweet mom and keep this from happening to other people. We welcome you to come to our website, check out our resources, rally with us to help keep others safe. Our web address is beverlycarterfoundation.org.
Carl has truly been a national safety advocate and a motivator for all to keep us safe. If you're a social media person, try to find him and reach out to him. September 26th was when his mom was abducted, and September 30th when the body was found. So he would love to hear from all of us during those hard times of remembrance on the anniversary. He actually got licensed to become a realtor so we could see what we do every day. And he's been a true advocate and a hero and a friend of mine.
When asked why he chose to rob and murder real estate agent Beverly Carter, her killer answered, because she was a rich broker working alone. If you were to walk through a local mall and ask 100 women if they would meet a strange man at an empty property, most would say no. For a real estate agent, that's part of the job description.
That's what we do every day. You wouldn't tell your son or daughter to meet a stranger at a vacant house for a job interview, and we do that. We may lock our doors at home, but at an open house, we let every stranger come in unannounced. Survey continued, and they asked, how many homes were shown with poor or no cell phone coverage? And 43% of the agents showed it alone, and 34% of them felt unsafe. So in preparing for my co-authored book on predatory behavior, we hired the University of Texas to do a behavioral study so we can learn the differences between a predator and a thief. And the predator's motive is power and control, where the thief's motive is just profit. The crime a predator will commit is assault, rape, and murder. A thief may burglarize from the home or steal from you. To a predator, there is a huge emotional component involved. Not only during the attack, but the whole planning stage. They get a high throughout every stage of the planning and attack. To a thief, there's no emotional component. Again, what attracts a predator is weakness, subservience, and vulnerability. What attracts a thief are the valuables that may be in the property and the ease of stealing them. The goal of a predator is to isolate you so you cannot be seen or heard during the attack. The goal of a thief is to be isolated themselves so you cannot see them steal from the home. To a predator, there's a huge emotional need that they're trying to fill, and that's why they're making a decision to commit the crime. For a thief, it's potential gain versus potential risk, and unfortunately, most of the time, the decision making is based on an addiction. So let's go through the timeline of a thief. They have a need decision, why they're going to do it. They're going to select the agent as a target or the property as a target. And if you're the primary target, you're probably chosen at random, but more likely they chose you because they feel you may be carrying cash or expensive jewelry. If the property is a primary target, you're more likely just a mere catalyst chosen at random to open a door and let them in. The planning of the thief, it could be something as simple as coming to an open house, or something as more complex with the kidnapping involved, which turns into a predatory behavior, or they may just come to the home, unlock a window, come back another day, or steal a key. And then the execution, if there's items to steal in the home that are visibly in our sight, that's going to happen. They're going to steal from you. Now, here are some behaviors you may see from a thief. The first is what I call a split play. If you're a male realtor, if a husband and wife comes in and the female buyer starts flirting with the male realtor to get his attention, while her partner goes around stealing from the home. If you're a female realtor, that wife is going to talk to you about an argument she just had with her husband outside to distract you while the partner steals from the home. Then there's something what I call the dust check. And I've had this happen to me where a buyer or burglar came in and run his finger across the headboard and look for dust and then wipe it, go to the dresser, rub his finger and look for dust, and then go to the double hung window and right in the middle runs his finger along and looks for dust. And what he just did right there was unlock the window to come back for a second time. I caught one guy doing that and I physically removed him from the house. We got his ID and the cops were looking for him. I don't know if they ever found him. I don't know if it was a fake ID or not. But we were able to identify him and they're still looking. And then there's the windows and doors gaze. If a potential buyer comes in and they're not overly impressed with the beautiful hardwood floors, with the pecan inlay border or the professional stainless steel kitchen, and all they do is go to the window and they look to see who could see in from the outside, be concerned that there may be a crime about to occur or one in the future. And if they ask about dogs, cameras, alarms, those are common red flags to know that something may be up. Now, for the timeline of a predator, it's a little more complex. First, they're going to initially focus on you, your photographs. And I'll show you a way to do a proper photograph and a way not to do a photograph. Certain photographs attract the attention of a predator. Then they're going to focus their behavior on your website and social media, see what your messaging is. That's part of their research stage as well. And then they're going to fantasize about you. And they're going to insert elements of your life into the stalker's life. And for example, if they see me on social media, they'll say that I am an avid fisherman. I love to cook. I cook great meals. I have good wines with my meals. To a predator, he's fantasizing about him being on my boat where I'm baiting his hook. He's in my kitchen helping me chop vegetables. And he's at my dining room table where I'm pouring a glass of wine. And that's how demented and obsessed the predator is, especially during this fantasy stage. And we don't know that this is occurring and happens to several ages simultaneously without even making contact. Matter of fact, here is a sign of fantasizing. We know that when we see these crime shows, we have alters of people they were going to attack and people they did attack. Well, an agent was showing a property next door to this property here, and looked and saw that there were pictures of female realtors from her community on the shed and on the fence. She notified 911. Luckily, the person was just emotionally disturbed and hadn't committed a crime yet, and they got some help with his family. But the agent had seen this, and it's very shocking, but this is what the fantasy stage is all about. Then they're going to plan to meet you. And at some point, the fantasy and stalking no longer provide a high, and the predator will plan to meet you, more likely showing a vacant home where you cannot be seen or heard. Then they're going to execute the plan, and this is going to be the first opportunity for you to show your strength and assess the risk of the prospect. Then they may show up or may not show up, depending on their state of minds. And if you ever had an appointment that you never met before, and you're going to meet them first time blindly at the showing property, and they don't show up, that could have been a predator who was looking to possibly set you up for that vacant property to commit a crime, but didn't have that urge that morning to do so, or the state of mind to do it. And this happens plenty of times, especially when the buyer then ghosts you afterwards. It may not have been a true buyer, but that's called victim shopping, where they're going to go from agent to agent looking for agents who show signs of weakness, subservience, or vulnerability. Then they're going to set the stage to attack. And I'll show you quick couple second videos on how that happens. And then the attack's going to happen. And just prior to the attack, you're going to notice increased signs of adrenaline on the predator. His gait will increase. He'll get into your space, making you feel uncomfortable. His neck veins may be bulging. He may be clenching his teeth. He may be clenching his fists. He may be having nervous twitch. Those are all signs of increased adrenaline. When you see it, that's probably the last opportunity you have to get out alive or uninjured. So let me tell you briefly about what it takes to make a crime. You need motive, means, and opportunity. Motive is the reason, means is the ability, and opportunity is a chance to commit that crime. And I put it on a three-legged stool because when you remove one of them, the crime doesn't occur. And we know we can't remove motive. Motive is what the predator controls. We have no control over that, but we can remove the means and opportunity. So by removing the means, we'll start with what I call smart marketing. Don't share your personal information. I used to always do this, especially showing in the town that I live. Say, oh, this is a great neighborhood. Our kids go to this school. We go to this church. We go to this library program. On Saturday, we're in the soccer field. And in fact, I live around the corner of that brick house. Now I just told the predator how he could attack me and my family. And I include that because we put this in the book. We've spoken to agents who, after a showing, would see the predator creep around them at the soccer field, be outside at the school looking and luring and lurking and stalking the agent. And then don't use alluring or provocative photography. I know many years ago, the women would go get the glamour shots before they would get their photos done. They'd get the hair and the nails done. They'd get the good jewelry on. Here, Beverly's a beautiful woman with the string of pearls. And she came across as a rich broker working alone, and that's why she was attacked by Aaron Lewis. So here are two different photos. One in the green box is the proper way to take a photo. The one in the red box is not. And typically, headshots fall into two types. You have a personal smile on the right, and you have a professional smile on the left. A personal or intimate smile presents that slight head tilt and has a smile that one would expect when someone says, I love you to them. The personal smile also attracts the attention of a predator. It shows signs of subservience and vulnerability. Well, conversely, the head of the professional smile is straight. It makes the agent less attracted to a predator because it projects power, confidence, authority, and it creates boundaries. If you're going to take photos, avoid full body photos wherever possible. Use photos that are right at the shoulders or above the shoulders. And if you're going to take pictures that include the body, be professional. Wear a shirt that goes no lower than the top of the breastbone. Avoid wearing form-fitting clothes. Wear professional colors. Wear a jacket if possible. And your makeup should be natural and understated. Jewelry should be minimal, maybe just a wedding band. Now here is how not to put a photo out on social media. This was an agent in Manhattan in the condo's hot tub talking about what she just got under contract. Very obviously not professional. It definitely will lurk a predator's attention. I actually reached out to the agent and she didn't want to hear from me. She didn't think she did anything wrong. Now, when they're researching you and your website, they're looking for your marketing message, and your words have an emotional value above and beyond the literal meaning. And we know predators are attracted to that weakness, subservience, and vulnerability. So it's essential to use words that convey power, control, knowledge, and authority to reduce the attraction of a predator. And here's an example. An authoritative message would be, I have the experience to handle the entire real estate process. The subservient message is, I'm here to serve all your real estate needs. And to a predator, that subservient message will make their mind race, and they believe that you're there to serve all their needs. Then on the initial call, this is your first opportunity to show your strength. And you're going to do three things. You're going to use the neighborhood and property information. You're going to reestablish power and control, and you're going to set expectations. So when the call comes in and you reply to the inquiry, you're going to say, thank you for inquiring about 123 Main Street. It's one of our most popular listings. This home has plenty of windows accenting the natural sunlight. So now what you just told the predator is that others could see in from the outside, and there may be other people at the showing because it's a very popular listing. Then you're going to reestablish power and control by saying, instead of meeting at 5 p.m., we will meet at 5:30. Even though you know the homeowner's available at 5, or you have access to a lockbox or a key pickup, or you're available, just by changing that time by 30 minutes, will reestablish power and control away from the predator. And then you're going to set expectations. We'll be spending no more than 15 minutes at the showing, as the sellers are due to return at 5:45. And we know from that news story, that was one of the things the agent had told them, that the sellers were due to come home, and that also stopped the assault that was going on. To a predator, you've just established that you're not weak, subservient, or vulnerable. To a normal prospect, this is a normal conversation that won't raise any flags or lose you any business. Then I'm going to talk about active listening. So NAR used to always say, well, bring your buyer in, do a buyer prospect questionnaire or a buyer survey with them, bring them to the office, meet them at a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks, so people could see who they are, introduce them to your front desk and to other agents. That alone will not prevent a predator. But what the time you spend with them, instead of meeting them blindly at a property for the first time, the time you spend with them, be an active listener. See if anything creeps you out. See if there's anything that makes you feel uneasy, that maybe you don't want to go on the appointment, or maybe you'd want to bring a buddy with you. But if you just go blindly to the property and you have that feeling, that makes it a little harder to exit the scenario, as if you know beforehand you could bring a buddy. And then at the showing, have what I call an empowered greeting. Get there early, stand on the top step, reach down to the prospect. To a predator, you're not appearing weak or vulnerable because they're forced to look up at you. And then have a firm handshake. We know that a good firm handshake is a universal sign of strength and assuredness, and it'll remove any perception of you being weak or vulnerable. Okay, now let's look at removing the opportunity. So I sell a lot of co-ops here in Queens and in Manhattan, and a lot of doorman buildings. So I created this system that not only keeps me safe, but a lot of the buildings now adopt it. So when I got to the showing, I went to the doorman, I said, when I come in with my buyer 15 minutes from now, please collect both our IDs. When we leave, make sure I leave with him and we get our IDs back. So we arrive together and we leave together. And to a predator, that's just going to disrupt their fantasy and their plan. So that will stop and show that you're not weak, subservient, or vulnerable, because now there's a plan in place that the doorman's going to know that the predator can't leave you behind. And when you're showing an apartment, keep the door open. God forbid you have to cry for help. People could hear you. But this was adopted by many co-ops in Manhattan after I showed apartments there. And now NAR used to say, well, always bring a buddy. And we know always means never, but here are 4 times where you should definitely consider taking a buddy with you. And the first is when the property is vacant, because we know a predator is going to lure you there so you cannot be seen or heard during the attack. If there's poor cell phone coverage, because you won't be able to call for help or activate your safety app. If you have that uncomfortable feeling prior to the showing, bring a buddy with you. Beverly Carter definitely had that uncomfortable feeling several times. And then if you haven't closed a deal in a while, bring a buddy, because you may not observe or acknowledge all the signs that your body's telling you that something may be wrong. So you'd have a buddy with you that could help you, because you're just so worried about getting the deal done. And let me talk a little about lockbox safety. Arrive 15 minutes before your appointment to access the box so you don't have the prospect stand behind you as you do it. In fact, what I do is I have a buyer stand at the front of the house or on the sidewalk until I open up the lockbox. And listing agents, please avoid side and rear doors and utility meters. The predator wants to get you alone where you cannot be seen or heard, and what better place than in the back of the house or the side of the house. And then have a distress code. NAR used to say, well, send me the red file. That may raise a flag. So we have an office policy that if someone hears an agent say, hi, this is Dave, I'm at 123 Main Street, can you send me the disclosure file? That will let them know that I may be in some danger, maybe feel a little uneasy, but not to the point of calling 911. The office could send someone, they could call 911, they could do both. But here, I gave them my name and my location. I gave the code word, and then the front desk would then know that I'm a little uneasy at my appointment right now, and it won't raise a flag to the purchaser or predator. So here are 3 ways you're going to set the stage. And we heard the first one about the bathroom attack, but it happens real easy.
Yeah, I think there's a leak over here. Can we take a look?
And that could happen also in the basement. I don't show basements. I don't show attics. I won't walk into a small room. But here, if you hear that there's a leak over here, just know that there may be an attack imminent. This is the lookup attack. And it's the same concept of distract and strike, but you'll notice subconsciously when someone speaks to us, when we're looking up at something, we kind of lean in to that voice.
What's that?
I don't see.
And then you're distracted and you get struck in the face. Now, the last one is the hallway attack, and this could also happen at the top of the steps, but just realize where the predator's hands are just before the attack occurs.
Here can be used as either a bedroom or an.
So she did something really good. She directed the prospect as opposed to leading them, meaning her back wasn't exposed. But as he slowed down, her gait did not, and she didn't maintain, a safety distance between her and the prospect. And once his hands went up, he just turned around and she walked right into that punch. But if COVID taught us anything about 6 feet, keep 6 feet away from your prospect as you're showing the property. Open houses, they asked the survey, well, how many hosted an open house alone? 42% hosted an open house alone, and 18% felt unsafe while doing so. What my best practice is, what my team is, we would door knock to let the neighbors know that we're doing an open house, or we would send a postcard. And in the postcard of the door knock, it would be, hi, I'm Dave Legaz, ABC Realty. Just dropping by to let you know 123 Main Street down the block is coming on the market on Friday, asking $795, and we're doing an open house from 1 to 3, but the seller is offering the neighbors to come in for a preview between 12 and 1. And I'll put that in a just listed card too, advertising the open house. And this way, you're letting the neighbors know that you're going to be at an open house. You're also giving them opportunity to come in earlier because they want to compare theirs to yours. And we know that when one comes on the market on the block, usually a second one does. And it's always disturbing when it's not your listing, even though your sign's up right next door. But this way you can have a lead gen conversation with them too, while also keeping yourself safe. Don't host it alone. What my team does, it's either myself and a buyer's agent and a loan officer, or my wife with a buyer's agent and a loan officer. So we'll have at least 2 or 3 people at the open house. We'll try to plan escape routes. I like to have all my doors closed and locked, so I know the only people that are there are the people that I let in, but it's up to you on what you'd like to do. Control the traffic. We have one party come in and then one party leaves. So at any given time, if we have 3 people, there's no more than 2 parties in the property. If we only have 2 people, it's 1 party at a time. And here's a scenario, a picture that we did just before COVID, an open house, about 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground, 30 degrees outside, and 26 people waiting to get in. And what this does is not only keeps the agent safe, it keeps the property safe as well from any theft, because now you can be with every buyer as they walk through. It creates buyer urgency amongst the other buyers. You can see there's a lot of people out there. Now with the inventory, lack of inventory, I don't think that's a problem anymore. But it also, the neighbors keep on looking and they think you're the best realtor because every time they look, there's always a crowd outside. So it serves 3 purposes, but mainly it's to keep you safe. And then I ask for ID, not because if I know who they are, they're not going to attack me. But again, it shows that I'm not weak, subservient, or vulnerable because I'm asking them to do an order of giving me their ID. And then I'll write and sign them in to the open house log. Direct them, don't lead them. We know that. Avoid basements, bathrooms, garages, attics, and small rooms. And then if you are going to host an open house by yourself, have periodic check-ins. Have someone check in on you every half hour by phone call, and have a plan that if you don't answer, they were to arrive. And then at the end of the open house, make sure everybody's left, checked all the rooms and yards before locking up. and God forbid, prepare to defend yourself if possible. Sometimes there are some stragglers left at the open house, hiding in a closet, waiting for you to lock up. And again, the most dangerous time is at the open house, at the end of the open house, because the predator knows no one's going to come in from behind them. I take this to heart so much that when I lock up the open house, whether it's at 3 or a little after 3, after it's locked, I'm not going back in. And a lot of times stragglers will come in and say, well, hey, can you open up the open house? I'm sorry, hit traffic. And I'll say, no. I said, we'll have to schedule another appointment. Because if that was a predator, they may know that no one's going to be following behind them. So what if I told you that there was a tool that could keep you safe, prevent you from being victimized? It will issue a warning that you're about to make a dangerous mistake. It's always on, doesn't require any batteries, and this tool's for free. You want to know what it is, right? Well, you already possess it. It's that sixth sense. It's that voice inside your head. It's that gut feeling. It's that hair on the back of your neck that something may be wrong. And a lot of agents we interviewed for the safety book, the victims had said that they've had this uncomfortable feeling prior and they discounted it and they regret pushing through the appointment because they were attacked. So I have some good news. One of the things I was involved in at the NAR level was the safety committee, and we petitioned the people in charge of the MLS to create potential MLS safety fields. And they were adopted, and they're going to be mandatory in the spring of 2024, where a listing agent is going to try to keep everybody safe by saying if it's vacant, if there's no heat, if there's some limited lighting, indoor or outdoor, is it not visible from the road? Is there electric on? Is there inconsistent cell service? And when you see these in the MLS, you'll know whether to take a buddy with you based on what we know the predator's behavior is. So thank you, Realtor Safety Committee. Thank you, the Council of Multiple Listing Services and the Real Estate Standards Organization, RESO. With their combined help, we were able to get these fields coming in the spring of 24 to keep everybody safe. So Dave, what about background checks? A lot of people say, we see the predators have it. Well, just know that there's a 30% error rate in background checks. Habitual and serial rapists attack 11 victims even before getting arrested. 70% of these people, of the predators, don't even have a felony conviction yet, and the database may only contain a small portion of the convictions. I would say still use those sites, but don't rely it as a safe fall that if there's no hit on a name that you think you're safe. Still be aware of the other signs. Before I end, I want to talk about safety at home. As an NYPD sergeant, one of my assignments were to supervise the domestic violence unit in numerous Manhattan housing developments. And after learning about a realtor who was killed by a husband in a double suicide a few years ago, and I think unfortunately we just heard it happen again a couple months ago, it sparked my desire to spend a few minutes on domestic violence. And with the majority of us still working from home, already difficult situations can quickly escalate and create increased danger. So just know on average 20 million people per minute, 20 people per minute are physically abused by their partner, which is more than 10 million men and women a year. And murders by intimate partners increased almost 20% during their last survey between 2014 and 2017. So if you know someone who's a victim of domestic violence, or if unfortunately you may be, there are some resources. There's the hotline.org. It's a quiet online chat. You can call the national hotline here. But I just wanted to touch base on that because we work from home, many realtors, and if you're in a tough situation, it's already difficult. And lastly, the Long Island Board of Realtors, we have a safety page where there's a safety alert system. Actually, you could see a previous presentation of mine up here as well. And then there's the Real Safe Agent Crime Prevention System. It's an app to keep yourself safe. And I believe next Wednesday, or in one of these Wednesday seminar safety, we're going to have that trainer come on talking about that free safety app to keep you safe. NYSAR also has a safety page. If you want to talk safety at your office meeting, there's 3-minute videos that I do that can be found here. I did it when I was the president of NYSAR a couple of years ago. And NAR also has their own safety site as well. I have this free safety ebook, Safe Selling, go to safesellingbook.com. It's a free ebook. No money's being made. And it just talks about a little what we did today, and it gave you some more extra steps on how to stay safe. And I want to thank you. If there's any questions, I will welcome them now. You go to Q&A. No, I don't see anything. Oh, here's one. Link for the book. Yes. That is safesellingbook.com.
I just have to say, I have heard Dave before, and he makes the program so relevant and so timely. And what a great way to start off our Realtor Safety Month. Just so informative. Also, this is recorded. David has allowed us to record it. So if you go to lirealtor.com/webinars or Wednesday webinars, in about a day or so, the recorded webinar will be there, and I encourage you to pass it along to other agents. And please join us every Wednesday this month for a different aspect of Realtor Safety. To include the last webinar, we actually have a martial arts expert who will demonstrate with the partner physical safety techniques to keep you out of harm's way. I think also on the webinar, the recorded version, we're able to attach this book. So you can go back to a Wednesday webinar on our site, David's webinar, and see the safety book there attached. Thank you for everything, all that you put into this, the book and your time. And can't thank you enough, David.
My pleasure. Please be safe out there.
Yes, thank you, everybody.